operations, operations. Go ahead, Ward. Based off the report from Branch 4, and pushing the Yaki Gulch, and established some hummingbirds that way. We went ahead and started evacuations on the Old Highway to include the Old Highway from Yaki Gulch.
What's up, guys? This video is basically only for federal hotshot crews out there, the wildland fire crews that go out there and hike into these wildland fires out in the forest, national forest and so forth, to battle this stuff head on. And it's a safety concern that I have and that I've been noticing. So on the heels of a movie coming out on the Granite Mountain Hotshot crews that died at Yarnell Hill on that one incident where 19 crew members died all at once, and when they got surrounded and overrun by a fire, I've noticed that in the after action report, part of the blame was that their radios, they weren't programmed for the proper transmit tones, I would imagine, or receive tones, one of those two, but mostly transmit tones. And that was one contributing factor of losing communication with the rest of the group, or whatever the case may be. And there's other issues that I see that could be contributing to that as well, from sort of back in the camp, novice, not out there, armchair review, if you will. So it's not expertise or nothing like that, but I've been there. I've seen where you guys work at. I know what you guys go through, and I can see problems that could arise from being out there and facing similar situations. I understand that in your culture, you guys are totally self-contained and self-supporting, and I respect that a great deal because I take that same attitude in my private life. But there's one problem that I see with your comms and programming your radio yourselves, which is fine. I think everybody should be able to program their radios and support themselves in that factor, but you have to do it right. You have to sort of know the details now, because today's comm unit or comm plan fighting these fires is somewhat different than it was in the past. There's a little bit more moving parts. These fires are getting a lot more larger, and we get a lot more frequencies to use out there to handle this whole fire thing. And I understand that you guys have your own frequencies. I had a federal technician tell me that how you guys operate in a way as far as your crew frequencies, which is great. You have frequencies that you could use countrywide. As you can see from this radio that we got in from repair, I usually check the programming and make sure you guys are up to date before I put it into the outbox. And I noticed that on the very last channel, it's been taken up by a crew frequency, and they usually put crew on the display there to signify that. But in actuality, in that frequency, you're overriding the Guard 25 emergency channel. On the more advanced radios, they're on channel 20. On your radios, typically, is channel 16, the very last channel on the knob, and that's designated for the emergency, shit hit the fan, I'm in trouble frequency that the air crews are monitoring, and basically everybody else as well is monitoring all the time in case somebody falls into trouble, like an overrun fire or medical emergencies, which, as you know, happens all the time. And here I'm scrolling through all the channels on this radio, and it's matching up the comm plan of that particular operational period pretty closely. So that tells me that you guys have actually programmed this radio correctly from channel 1 up to channel 15, but you put your crew frequency on possibly one of the most important channels in the radio, which is 16, the emergency channel on the radio there. And here I'm scrolling over to the last channel and it's saying crew. Now, out of all the channel slots that you could pick from, that is actually one of the worst places that you could put your crew frequency on, because, like I said, that is your last ditch resort channel to use if you run into trouble when you have air support above you listening to that channel constantly in case of an emergency. That's the whole idea. Out of all the channels that you could use that's available to you, technically not really, but you could play around or modify the comm plan a little bit to where you could fit in that crew channel somewhere in that radio, other than channel 16 or channel 20 on the modern radios of the BK square box vintage, and also the new ones too, the KNGs and the Midlands that you have out there now. So the history behind having the air guard channel on channel 16 and 20 for the newer radios is that channel will be on the very last channel on the knob here. So if you get into trouble and you really can't look down and tell what channel you're on, and you want to call for some help, the whole idea is to grab that channel knob and swing it totally clockwise until it stops, or in some of the newer models you just spin it until you feel that you ran through the whole frequency list, and that last channel will be the emergency air guard channel for you to get in contact with the air boss or air attack above you, or anybody on the ground as well in range, to hear your request for some help or whatever the case may be. An emergency, like I said. That's the whole history and idea of having that air guard on the last channel there, is to swing that channel knob all the way clockwise to hit that last channel. You see it's going to stop right there, not go any further, and that channel will automatically be the emergency air guard channel to call for some help. Perhaps, I don't know, please tell me on the comments down below if that's within the Hotshot SOP, is to have the last channel taken up by your crew channel. So if you guys get into need some help, you'll call your crew members instead of air guard. So when you guys swing the knob over to your last channel, you're going to hit the crew channel instead of, air guard above. I don't know the politics behind that. On an incident, you're not following the comm plan, so that could be some repercussions later on if something should happen and they investigate afterwards. The Yarnell Hill fire, they totally investigated that fire independently and within the interagencies involved, and people got fired. No prosecutions or nothing like that, but shit has rolled downhill, or things were done and investigated. So I don't know, you want to follow the incident plan, or you want to be mavericks and follow your own plan by having that crew channel on the last place where you're pretty much overriding the emergency guard channel. And if you look at the comm plan, in this particular fire, the Detweiler fire, it was a pretty large incident. So we had all these divisions or sections of the fires that you were possibly not assigned to. So you could have picked any one of these other tactical channels within the comm plan on your radio and go opposite of where you're actually working at. So if you're working on Division 8 Alpha Alpha Bravo Bravo, you could have picked Division Mike to put your crew channel on. And I don't know if it's allowed or anything, but as a safety aspect of it, that could have been totally acceptable. You'll have your crew channel and your emergency backup channel here at the very end included, so you'll have the best of all worlds, really. And in this particular date, this was July 25th, there was no channels assigned to channel 4. It was a blank there, and channel 13. So they were blank. Actually, there is something programmed into there, but it was not included in that particular operational period. But it could be included maybe days later as contingency if something should blow out or whatever. That's why you'll see blanks here. But if you look at the actual radio load when we clone your radios to that particular fire, there may be something programmed in that spot. But in any event, what I'm saying is, in that particular operational day, you could have placed it on channel 13 or channel 4 to have your crew frequency on those slots there. And like I say, you guys know how to program your radios, and you could easily have done that. Have one radio program out of your crew, and then use that radio to clone the rest of your crew internally within your group there, and not have the comm unit do it. Since you guys like to, operate on your own. That could have been perfectly acceptable, but in this first example that I showed you, it's sort of, not correct. I mean, like I said, if something should have happened, you guys would have been left on your own, and who knows. And just pointing that out. I'm not chastising you guys or anything like that. Like I said, I respect your culture and your lineage and your history, and the reputation you have as self-contained unit out there surviving on your own. But I'm trying to look out for you guys. I want you guys to still be around and go back to your families. I mean, you guys are all young and tough and everything, and we want you to live in a ripe old age, and that's why I'm making this video. So here's another potential problem that I found when I read the radio. Like I said, the frequencies was okay, except for the last channel, which you guys overwrote with your crew channel. That could be a potential problem. Choose another location. But here, in this particular comm plan, the transmit tones were disabled, where you could select your own user code. It was disabled, but on your radio, you left it enabled. That's a big detail to sort of pay attention to, because us as the comm unit, we try to make the comm plan as simple as possible, depending on the operational period and what's out there in the field. And I'll show you an example of what I mean. So let's say you're assigned to V-Fire 24 Division Alpha Alpha. You want to talk to your division supervisor. The division supervisor assigned could be another battalion chief or captain from a state agency or county agency or some other federal agency that's using a different radio, where their radio, if you program the receive tone onto there, which more than likely he has because he went to the comm unit to have it cloned, it will be set for that. So you're out there and you want to talk to the division supervisor about something, and you inadvertently press 3 on the keypad of your radio, the Hotshot radio, the DPH radios, or in some cases GPH radios that is still out in the field like this, mostly DPHs, square buttons. What you just did now, when you inadvertently, press number 3, or it hit your shovel or your backpack or a rock when you sat down, it hit tone 3, and what it did now is going to use the tone out of channel 3, which is channel 3 is CDF command 2, and the transmit tone on that is 103.5, tone 4. Now that tone is going to be transmit out of the channel 5, your assigned tactical frequency for division Alpha Alpha, that was supposed to be 156.7. Now you inadvertently are transmitting 103.5. His radio, which is more modern, and he's probably got a K&G radio, it's going to filter out the 103.5 that you are transmitting, so he cannot hear you at all, even though you're across the gully or the drainage that you're working in, and you need some direction about something, or you need some help or something like that. His radio is filtering you out because you're not transmitting 156.7, you're transmitting 103.5. You would have to come back to your radio and press 5 to re-enable 156.7. So that is an added headache, attention to detail that you may or may not be aware of. In this case, it doesn't look like this particular hotshot crew wasn't aware of that little detail that could lead to a large problem later down the road. Human error, but like I said, is a detail that you need to know so you won't run into this problem here. And I just showed you what could happen and what the easy fix you could do to do that, to fix that particular problem. So here's another radio, the second radio from another hotshot crew totally from a different area. I don't think they even share the same state. So here we go. We're at the last channel, and there is CS crew, possibly. And it's supposed to be the emergency air guard channel for emergency use only. And at the very last channel, it was a crew channel frequency. And here we're going to read the radio, or I don't remember if I read it. Actually, I'm going to read it right now. I'm going to read that particular group. And there it is. That's their, if you look at the last channel, it's their crew channel. Crew 5 looks like it's written on the alpha tags, where it should be the emergency channel there of the air guard in case you run into trouble. No good. Don't do that. Use another slot. And there, the user code guard is enabled on this one as well, so you're going to run into the same scenario that I just showed you in the last clip at my garage, because all the tones are going to be all jacked up if you sort of press any button while doing your job. So on that radio that I just showed you that came in from the field for repair, he's been out there in the field doing his job, and those are two potential problems that could lead to a Yarnell Hill, Granite Mountain 19 sort of catastrophe if, God forbid, it goes, that particular course. So bottom line, my hotshot crews out there, please pay attention to details. This is a new day and age of fire communications out there. Things are getting a little bit more complicated out there, and it's going to get worse as these fires are getting larger and larger, with more acreage out there, more real estate out there burning up in one particular incident. I mean, we're having 2 or 3 groups of banks here being used up, where back in the past it usually used up one bank of the incident comm plan. Bottom line, yeah, just pay attention. You could always ask any of the comm unit guys on these details, on how to do the programming, find out if it's hard toned, get those details. We're approachable. You could come up to us, ask us. We have a bunch of different personalities in the comm unit depending what incident you're on. There's some dicks out there, I will agree, and there's some condescending assholes out there. I will agree to that, but you will at least find one person willing and able to explain what's going on, the details, and show you how to do this, or point you to the safe and direct way of programming your radios. And you could do it yourself. Have one guy be the resident expert of your team, or 2, he could come to the comm unit, ask us the pertinent questions that they need to know to program your radios, then go back to your crew and do what you guys are going to do anyway, because you guys are like herding cats. And I'm saying it with tongue in cheek. I like you guys. You guys are the greatest out there, along with federal and what do you call it, the state and county and city crews out there as well. But you guys are a different breed. You do things the way you guys want to do it, but I want to see you do things safely. And this is a concern. You've seen already 2 radios from 2 different hotshot crews with the same 2 problems that could cause all sorts of problems. And who knows, maybe we had hotshot crews come in explaining that they didn't have good enough comms, or their radios is not working correctly. I do get radios come in for repair that say that they can't transmit to somebody, and when we look at it, the programming is all jacked up, and it was set to the wrong tone being transmitted or something to that effect. So yeah, come to the comm unit, ask us questions. We'll take the time to sit down with you and talk things through after the rush of the cloning morning, as you know. But we have a lot of downtime as well, so come on in. And you're also going to meet a lot of guys green behind the ear too. This is their first assignment in the comm unit, and those guys will be totally new. But try to find an old hat at it, or a veteran guy that walks the walk and knows what he's talking about, and pick his brains on what you need to know. I'm not going to bullshit anybody, and if you look at the rest of my videos, you will see that I don't bullshit, and I cut to the chase, and I call it like I see it. And like I said, in every community, that you got some assholes, you got some dumbasses that have no business being there, but a couple of minutes out there, you could figure who's who and what's what, and you could pick out the guys that know what they're doing and who you need to approach and who is approachable and willing to show you how things run as far as that aspects. Because I know you guys are going to do things how you guys want to do it, but I'm just pointing out that we could at least lead you correctly in a safer manner. Like I said, don't use the last channel for your crew frequency. Pick another spot that you're not using on the comm plan for that particular day. And if you need to reprogram that channel every day because the comm plan changes every day because it's a dynamic situation, so be it. Reprogram again. Get used to it. Leave that last channel clear for the air guard channel for your safety. That's the bottom line. Alright guys, hope this was helpful.